Good morning or good afternoon to the first grade Great Oaks Legacy Scholars. We are now into trimester 3, week 3 remote learning. The first week, we learned about regrouping and subtraction, and we used place value charts. During week 2, we learned more about subtracting and regrouping, but this time we didn't use the place value chart. This week, we're going to dive into something that is different. This week, we're going to learn about 2D shapes. Now, 2D shapes are plane shapes. That means those shapes are flat. Remember, 2D shapes or plane shapes means there are flat shapes. We're going to learn how to figure out the different types of shapes. We're going to learn the names. We're going to learn about the sides and the corners that the shapes have. So let's get started. These are some vocabulary words that we are going to need to know and remember for this week. Now, all shapes have sides and corners. Sides are the flat lines of the shape. Just like this rectangle, these flat lines are what we call sides. There's one for a square. These lines are the sides, and even for a triangle, these flat lines are the sides. Now, corners, another word for corners is vertices. Vertices or corners are the pointy part of the shape. This is where the two lines connect. This pointy part is called the corner, or another word for it is called vertices. Now, edges and vertices are just a bigger word for sides and corners. For this week, we're just going to focus and call it sides and corners. And then next week, we are going to learn more about edges and vertices. So remember, sides are the flat lines, and corners are the points of the shape. So let's get started. Our first shape is a rectangle. Now, this is the shape of a rectangle. And when we draw it out, it should look something like this. When you draw the rectangle, two of the parts are shorter than the other two parts. So there's two short sides and two long sides. And in total, when we count all the sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 4 sides or 4 edges. And remember, there are 2 short sides and 2 long sides. Next, we have 4 corners for a rectangle. There's a corner here, 1, another here, 2, and another one here, 3, and another one here, 4. So in total, there are 4 corners or 4 vertices. And if you notice, these corners, they are square corners. That means each of the corners kind of make the shape of a square. So these are square corners. So every corner of a rectangle has a square corner. Our next shape is a triangle. Now, a triangle is shaped just like this, and when we draw it out, you should have drawn something like this. And if you look at it, there are 1, 2, 3 sides of a triangle. And if it has 3 sides, there are 1, 2, 3 corners. So a triangle has 3 sides and it has 3 corners, just like that. Our next shape is a circle. Now, everybody should be familiar with this circle. When we draw it out, it should look round, and it should look something like that. Now, for a circle, do you see any flat lines? No. So that means it has 0 sides. Do you see any pointy parts of a circle? No, it's just round. So that means there are 0 corners. So for a circle, there are 0 sides and 0 corners because there is no flat line and there is no corners or no sharp pointy parts. Let's get to the next shape. Our next shape is a square, very similar to a rectangle. But the one thing that you have to remember about a square is that when you make the 4 sides, all 4 sides are equal. All of the sides are equal. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, and all of these 4 sides are equal. That means if we have 4 sides, let's see how many corners we have. 1, 2, 3, 4. That means we have 4 corners. And just like the rectangle, these corners, they are squared corners. Every corner is a square corner. So that means it looks like a shape of a square when you connect it. So the square has 4 equal sides and it has 4 corners. And remember, these corners are called square corners. Let's take a look at our next shape. Our next shape is a rhombus. Now this rhombus looks somewhat similar to our square that we saw before right over here, except the rhombus is a little bit slanted, just like this. Now, when you draw it out, it should look something like that. It doesn't really matter how slanted it is, as long as it's a little bit slanted. Now, just like a square and a rectangle, a rhombus has 4 sides, and all of these sides are also equal. Even though they are slanted, all of the sides are equal. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal sides. And if we have 4 equal sides, that means we also have 4 corners. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 corners. Now, these corners are not square corners because these are all slanted, if you notice. They're not like the ones that we saw in a square. It doesn't have that square shape. These are all slanted and they're different sizes for the corners. So we need to know that they're just regular corners. So it has 4 equal sides and it has 4 corners. Our next shape is a trapezoid. Now, a trapezoid is a very interesting shape. When you draw it out, it should look something like this. The top is shorter than the bottom, and then the 2 parts on the side are the same sides. That means if we count all the sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 4 sides, but only 2 of the sides are equal. These 2, one over here and one over here. These 2 are equal to each other. Let's see how many corners we have. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have 4 corners. So this shape, remember, is a trapezoid. It's a very interesting shape. Remember, only sides that are equal are the ones on the side, right over here. Those are the only 2 sides that are equal. But in total, we have 4 sides and we have 4 corners. Let's take a look at our next shape. Our next shape is a pentagon. A way to remember a pentagon is that it's kind of the shape of a house. This is a roof, and then this part is the body of the house. So remember, when you think of a pentagon, think of a shape of a house. Now, a pentagon has many sides. Let's count how many sides they have. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There are 5 sides. So a pentagon has 5 sides. Then let's see how many corners it has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has 5 corners. So a pentagon has 5 sides and it has 5 corners. Now remember, when you think of the word pentagon, think about a house. And remember, the house has a roof and it has a body, so it has 5 sides and 5 corners. Let's take a look at our next shape. Our next shape is a hexagon. This is the shape of a hexagon. This is what it should look like when you draw it out. Let's count how many sides a hexagon has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A hexagon has 6 sides. Then let's see how many corners it has. If it has 6 sides, let's see. Think about it. How many corners do you think it will have? If you thought about it, let's see if you're correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just like how it has 6 sides, it has 6 corners. Now, when you think of a hexagon, you should think about the stop sign that you see outside on the streets. A hexagon is the same shape that you see on a stop sign. That is the same shape. So when you see on the streets and you think of the stop sign, remember that shape is called a hexagon. Let's take a look at our next and last shape. Our last shape is called the octagon. This is what the octagon should look like, and when you draw it out, it should look something like this. If you notice, they have a lot of sides and a lot of corners, so let's see and count how many sides it has. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. There are 8 sides in an octagon. So let's take a quick prediction. If there are 8 sides of an octagon, how many corners do you think an octagon has? Think about it. If you thought about it, let's see if you're correct. We have 8 sides in an octagon. Let's see how many corners an octagon has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So an octagon has 8 sides and it has 8 corners. Now, a good way to remember this shape octagon is it starts with the word octa. Octa means 8. So when you think about octa, it kind of sounds like octopus. And an octopus has 8 legs. So whenever you think of an octopus, remember the shape octagon. An octopus has 8 legs. So an octagon has 8 sides and 8 corners. So that is the end of going over all of the shapes. Now it's your turn to practice in your independent practice work. And you could always go back to this video and review all of the shapes that you need to know. This week, you're just going to learn how to identify all the shapes. That means you got to figure out what the names of the shapes are. And you're going to figure out how many sides and how many corners these 2D shapes or these plane shapes have. So good luck. Remember, if you have any questions, you can always call your teachers. And remember, you could always play this video back. All right, good luck. Bye.